Welcome back to our deep dive into the wise man's fear. Last time, we left off with Kvothe heading to Ademre, a land shrouded in mystery and tradition, right?
Yeah, and boy does Ademre throw him for a loop. Like, everything he thought he knew about the world kind of gets flipped on its head.
Remember how we were talking about cultural clashes? Ademre is like the ultimate example of that. Their customs, values, even their way of thinking, totally different from what Kvothe used to. He has to adapt and fast, or he's going to be in trouble.
It's like he landed on another planet.
Yeah.
And that Lefani, their code of conduct, so central to how they live.
Right, it's more than just rules. It's like a philosophy woven into every part of Ademre's society. And for Kvothe, used to being impulsive, relying on his wit, it's a real struggle.
There's that scene where Vachette, his teacher, tells him basically that his Atron way of expressing emotions is childish. Ouch.
Right, talk about a reality check. He's got to learn to control himself. Think before he acts, be more mindful of, well, the consequences of what he does and says. Total shift in perspective.
Totally. And then there's the physical training, the Khitan, their fighting style, unlike anything he's seen before.
Incredibly graceful and deadly, a balance of strength and fluidity. Not just brute force, it's about reading your opponent, anticipating their moves, responding with precision.
And that image of the sword tree, it stuck with me. Beautiful and terrifying at the same time.
Absolutely. It symbolizes Ademre perfectly. The need to be dangerous but disciplined. To use power with grace, you know? Kvothe's attempts to master it, it's like a metaphor for his whole journey in Ademre, facing his limits, striving for balance.
Yeah. There's that moment when he's weaving through the spinning blades, not with speed or aggression, but with this calm awareness, like he's finally getting at the essence of the Khitan.
Exactly. It's not just fighting, it's becoming one with the movement, the flow, and it's through that intense training, constantly being pushed, that Kvothe starts to shed his old self and really embrace the Ademre way.
His relationship with Vachette is interesting, too. She's so tough on him, demanding, even harsh at times.
But there's a deep respect there, too. They recognize each other's strength. Vachette sees Kvothe's talent, but also his flaws. She's pushing him to become a better version of himself.
I remember that scene where she lashes out at him, leaves those marks on his face. Brutal, but it's a turning point for him.
For sure. It's humiliating, but it forces him to face the consequences of his actions. He realizes he can't just coast on his charm or talent. He's got to earn respect through humility, discipline, hard work.
And it's in that moment of vulnerability, facing his limits, that he starts to tap into something deeper. The true meaning of the Lefani, aligning your actions with your values.
It's transformative. And it leads to that amazing scene where he finally masters the sword tree, not just dodging, but moving with the blades, embodying the Khitan.
And when he leaves Ademre, he's not just got a new sword, Sisora, but a new name, Maedra, the broken tree. A badge of honor, showing his resilience and how much he's changed.
Ademre was like a crucible, forging him into a different kind of hero. Not just powerful, but wise, compassionate, connected to the world in a deeper way.
There's this scene I wanted to talk about. I found it really intriguing. Kvothe and Vachette are discussing relationships, and she just drops this bombshell that she's been intimate with others while they've been training together. It was so unexpected.
Yeah, that scene threw me off too the first time I read it. Makes you question your assumptions about mentorship, relationships, everything, but it also shows those huge cultural differences between Ademre and where Kvothe comes from.
Right. We take so much for granted when it comes to social norms, expectations. In Ademre, intimacy, it's viewed so differently.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that there are lots of ways to experience connection, intimacy. What might seem shocking in one culture is totally normal in another.
Made me think about that bigger theme in the book. You know, expanding your understanding of the world, challenging your own biases.
Totally. Rothfuss is constantly making us question what we think we know, see things from new perspectives. It's about embracing the complexity of human experience.
Okay, so we've covered a lot about Ademre, but I think it's worth going back to Rothfuss's philosophy of writing for a sec.
You mean that comment about what you have is the best possible book?
Yeah, he's so meticulous, intentional, saying every detail, every word serves a purpose. But then he's open to an annotated version, which seems kind of contradictory.
Maybe not. I think it shows he understands how deep his work goes. He trusts readers to engage with it in their own way. The annotations just offer extra context, insights for those who want to dig deeper.
It's like he's welcoming us into his process, showing us the tools he uses to create such a rich, layered story.
Precisely. And it reminds us that good storytelling goes beyond just plot. It's about building a world that feels real, characters that resonate, themes that make you think.
Speaking of thought-provoking themes, There's this one element that's particularly creepy, and I gotta say unsettling. Kvothe's encounter with the Kvothe.
Ah, yes. The Kvothe. Pure malice trapped in a tree, but capable of influencing the whole world with its words. One of the scariest parts of the book, for sure.
Remember how Kvothe's searching for info on the Chandrian, the ones he believes killed his parents? He's drawn to the Kvothe, hoping for some answers, but what he gets is much darker than he could have imagined.
Right, the Kvothe doesn't just give answers, it twists the truth, plants seeds of doubt, destruction, preys on Kvothe's fears, his desires, and it knows the future, so it can subtly push him down a bad path.
It's hinted that this meeting with the Kvothe has huge consequences, maybe even setting off events that lead to disaster.
It's a chilling thought that one conversation could have such a huge impact on the world. It makes you think about choice, unintended consequences, the power of words to shape our destiny.
And it makes you question everything that comes after. Was Kvothe tricked into choices that will destroy him? Is he falling right into the Fosse's trap? It's hard to know.
Rothfuss is a master of suspense. He weaves that foreshadowing throughout the story, making us doubt Kvothe, wonder what price he'll pay for his knowledge and his need for revenge.
It makes his return to the university even more tense. We know from the frame story, from Kvothe's as an old man, that something terrible has happened. Now knowing about the Kvothe, you gotta wonder if his actions are leading him straight to that doom.
It's like we're on a knife's edge. We admire Kvothe's resilience, his talent, but we're scared for him, knowing that his brilliance often comes with a dark side.
And that's what makes the wise man's fear so good. You're completely invested in Kvothe, even though you're worried about what's going to happen to him.
It's true. We're left hanging, wondering about his fate. And that uncertainty, that's what keeps us hooked.
And on that note of suspense, I think it's time to wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Join us next time as we dive into the final part of the wise man's fear and see what becomes of Kvothe and his quest for knowledge.